Across the world's vast empires and ancient lands, from the bustling streets of Babylon to the sprawling plantations of the New World, slavery shaped history. But it was not the institution itself that defined these ages, it was the courage, resilience, and unbreakable spirit of those who survived it, a testament that echoes across centuries and continents. It began long ago in Mesopotamia, in the cradle of civilization. As city-states formed along the Tigris and Euphrates, early societies introduced laws to govern and expand their rule. The Code of Hammurabi, one of the oldest known legal codes, even dictated rules for slavery. Enslaved individuals were often prisoners of war, criminals, or those burdened by debt. They built the cities and temples of ancient Sumer, worked the fields of Babylon, and served in the palaces of kings. Yet, even in servitude, they clung to their traditions, passing down stories, songs, and identities that would outlast the empires around them. As societies evolved, so did the institution of slavery. In ancient Egypt, enslaved people helped construct some of history's most impressive monuments, including the Great Pyramids. While enslaved Egyptians labored under the hot desert sun, they also forged deep communal ties. Songs and spiritual beliefs carried them through hardship, reinforcing the power of collective endurance. They prayed to their gods, found strength in their culture, and imagined a world beyond bondage. Their resilience, woven into the very stones of Egypt, remains a symbol of the human spirit's capacity to rise above even the most unimaginable adversity. As empires spread across the Mediterranean, slavery became a keystone of powerful civilizations like Greece and Rome. In Athens, the heart of ancient philosophy, enslaved people supported nearly every aspect of society, from farming to household work, enabling citizens to focus on art, politics, and philosophy. In Rome, the institution grew even more massive and complex. Enslaved people from across the empire filled every corner of Roman life. They built roads and aqueducts, constructed monuments, and served as doctors, teachers, and artisans. In Rome's mighty colosseums, some enslaved individuals became gladiators, battling for their lives and becoming legends in the process. Despite their status, they found ways to survive, form alliances, and even carve out a small sense of autonomy amidst the grandeur of Rome. As empires rose and fell, slavery took on different forms across the world. In Africa, complex societies thrived, with rich cultural practices and established trade networks. Slavery did exist within African societies, but it often differed from the brutal system of chattel slavery that would later sweep across the Atlantic. Enslaved individuals retained certain rights, and in some cases, paths to freedom. However, as European explorers arrived on African shores, they brought with them a hunger for wealth that would reshape the world, and the lives of millions. The 15th century marked the beginning of one of the most devastating eras in human history, the transatlantic slave trade. European colonial powers, spurred by the riches of the New World, sought labor to work the plantations of sugar, tobacco, and cotton that stretched across the Caribbean and the Americas. Millions of African men, women, and children were captured, sold, and forced onto ships bound for distant lands. The journey, known as the Middle Passage, was a harrowing ordeal. People were packed tightly, enduring unimaginable conditions, disease, and despair. Many did not survive the journey, but those who did carried with them a fierce strength and memories of their homeland. Upon reaching the Americas, enslaved Africans faced a brutal reality. Stripped of their names, identities, and families, they were seen only as property. Yet, even in these conditions, they forged powerful bonds and built new lives. Communities emerged in places like the Caribbean, where marooned societies of escaped enslaved people established free communities, often in remote, mountainous regions. In the United States, the Gullah people on the southeastern coast preserved African language, stories, and customs. These communities blended African and local customs, creating a unique culture that became a form of resistance. Through songs, spirituals, and dances, they preserved the memories of their heritage, passing down stories of courage, freedom, and hope. Resistance grew steadily across the Americas. Some acts were quiet, a stolen moment of prayer, a song of freedom whispered in the night. Others were bold and direct. Enslaved individuals organized rebellions, risking everything to break free. Figures like Nat Turner in the United States led uprisings that struck fear into the hearts of slaveholders, showing that the desire for freedom could not be contained. In Haiti, a remarkable revolution took place, led by the formerly enslaved Toussaint Louverture, sparking a fierce battle that would ultimately free the nation and establish the first Black Republic in 1804. By the late 18th century, a powerful abolitionist movement began to spread across Europe and the Americas. Formerly enslaved individuals and free people alike wrote, spoke, and lobbied for change. Harriet Tubman, a former slave, risked her life to lead others to freedom on the Underground Railroad, an elaborate network that guided hundreds to safety. Frederick Douglass, a brilliant orator and former enslaved man, used his words to expose the horrors of slavery, becoming one of the most powerful voices of his time. Abolitionist groups in Britain, the United States, and elsewhere demanded an end to the institution, challenging governments and societal norms. The 19th century became an era of monumental change. In 1833, the British Empire abolished slavery across its territories. The United States followed in 1865, following a long and bloody civil war. Brazil, the last country in the Americas to abolish slavery, did so in 1888. Across the world, the institution that had shaped so much of human history was finally dismantled. Yet, the end of slavery was not the end of the journey. Formerly enslaved people and their descendants faced enormous challenges, as they worked to rebuild their lives and claim rights in societies still marred by racism and inequality. But they carried forward the legacies of strength, culture, and pride forged during centuries of struggle. They became leaders, artists, activists, and visionaries, transforming societies and inspiring future generations to continue the fight for justice. Today, we honor this story not only as a history of suffering but as a testament to human resilience. The descendants of those who were enslaved carry forward a legacy of courage, one that continues to inspire movements for equality and justice. Their story, a journey from bondage to freedom, from oppression to triumph, reminds us that even in the darkest times, the human spirit is unbreakable. And it calls upon us all to stand for dignity, freedom, and the pursuit of a just world, where no one is ever reduced to anything less than fully human.